Hi everybody, Chef Greg here. Hey, today we're going to make something a little bit different. Today we're going to be making some Gruyere crepes topped with wild mushrooms and roasted sunchokes. Okay, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a nice fall day here. It's supposed to snow next week, so let's just enjoy it as much as we can. Okay, so let's make crepe batter. Crepes are basically just very thin pancakes. There's not a whole lot to it. A lot of people make a big deal out of crepes. One of my favorite things to do is ask other chefs about their crepe recipes. And I have found that if you ask 10 chefs how to make a crepe, you will get 12 answers and probably a fist fight. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to do it. Don't get hung up on it. Honestly, if you mix flour, eggs, and milk together, you're gonna have a crepe more or less. So don't get too hung up on everything else, okay? This is how I do it, and this is going to be for a savory crepe. If it were a sweet crepe, I might add some sugar, things like that, but this is gonna be a basic savory crepe, okay? I start with 1 cup of flour, okay? From there, once you have the flour in there, let's add a little bit of salt. You wanna mix your dry ingredients first. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm making sort of a well in the center here. Okay. We're going to do 2 eggs. Don't want to lose our well. All right. And this is what the well part is for. The well just means a little hole in the center that I'm pouring all of our liquid ingredients into. And you start mixing in the very center, very small circles, and you very slowly incorporate the dry items into it. This is a standard mixing method, but if you don't know how to do this, you end up with a lot more lumps than you would normally have. You're still going to have a few lumps. Sometimes when I do this, I actually use a blender, or if I'm at home, I'll strain it out. But we're not going to do those things today, because the thing about a lumpy crepe batter is it's still a nice crepe batter, okay? It's not going to taste any different. Once we are mostly done with the batter, and the final ingredient is a little bit of butter. Funny thing, when you work outside and it's about 60 degrees, sometimes your butter solidifies, so we had to heat up our butter. And we slowly add in about, I would say 2 tablespoons for this amount. I like to add it after everything else is mixed, because if you add, once again, warm butter to cold milk and eggs, you're going to end up with big old chunks of butter in the middle, which might be fun if you get a big chunk of butter, but it's not really how you should do it. Okay? So, just a little warning here. Every single time I've ever made crepes, the first one doesn't work out so well. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the nature of crepes. We're going to use a non-stick pan here. Okay? Even though it's non-stick, we do add a little bit of butter to it, okay? Because butter's good and we like it. Actually, what it does is it helps it to brown a little bit better. But you don't want to add too much. We're not making hotcakes here. All right, looking a little better here. Okay. So you want to let it brown on one side. Okay. Not too much heat. If when in doubt, go with less heat than you think you need. It'll get there one way or the other. It's not going to hurt it if it's too cold, but if it's too hot, it can be difficult. And give it a little shake, make sure it's not stick to the bottom. Okay. A little bit more butter. The butter really just helps it to brown nicely. It also adds this kind of a little lubricant there. Okay. Now that I've got it flipped, I'm going to add some Gruyere cheese. Okay. We're just going to let that melt a little bit. Okay, it smells really good. If you don't have Gruyere cheese, use any other cheese you'd like. Probably the closest substitute would just be a regular Swiss cheese. Okay, let's pour that onto our plate and give it a flip, just like that. Let's do one more. just for good luck. And again, as many or as little as you'd like. Okay. They get better. The more you do, the easier it is. Okay. It's a fine line between a crepe and a pancake. I would say the biggest difference would be baking powder. The pancake is fluffier, it rises. This just stays flat, which is what we want, but really it's a matter of preference. A crepe is really just a flat pancake. Okay? Over here. Okay, let it melt just a little bit. And it's going to continue to melt after we fold it because it's nice and warm there. Unless it's too cold outside. Okay. And once again, just a nice little flip, just like that. Okay? Hi. Okay, so now we're going to do the wild mushroom part. We have our crepes staying nice and warm for us. Okay, I want to show you a couple of our ingredients though that we're working with. This is what's called a sunchoke. Okay, this is a sunchoke here. It looks sort of like a cross between ginger and maybe, I don't know, a potato. So sunchokes are they're a tuber from a species of sunflower, which is native to this part of the world. It's native to the Central Plains and the Western Plains. And the Native Americans use it extensively. It is really easy to grow. It is very nutritious. It's good food to have around. It's kind of a fun story. It's also known as a Jerusalem artichoke, which is misleading because it has nothing to do with Jerusalem and nothing to do with artichokes. So when Europeans came to this country, they actually liked the sunchoke. It became very popular. They brought it back to Europe. It was very popular in Europe for a while. Somebody somewhere decided that it tasted something like an artichoke, and so it was called a sunflower artichoke for a little while there. Sounds like a marketing scheme to me. I don't know. The Italian way of pronouncing sunflower is girasole. Okay, and so it was girasole artichoke for a while. Well, it wasn't long before girasole became Jerusalem, and it became known as a Jerusalem artichoke. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it. Like I said, it doesn't taste like either one of them. It tastes to me like a potato with a slightly nutty flavor, maybe like a sunflower seed. Okay, they're really good. They're interesting because even though they're a tuber, they're actually very low in starch. Okay, and they contain what's known as inulin. Now, inulin is a type of it's similar to insulin, but your body processes it in a different way. And so when you eat sunchokes, you don't get the spike in blood sugar that you would get if you were eating potatoes or something similar to that. So somebody somewhere decided that that was going to be the new superfood. First of all, diabetics can eat it. Second of all, it's easy to grow. They were going to use it for making cattle feed. They were going to use it for making ethanol, things like that. In the 80s, it became kind of a big deal. A lot of farmers planted a lot of sunchokes, and then nothing happened. People don't really eat it that much. It's not terribly popular in this country. It is actually still popular in Europe, and in Germany there's a type of brandy made from it, which is kind of cool. Okay. Anyway, what we do, you can have it raw like this. It's pretty good. Or you can have it roasted, which I prefer. This is raw and this is roasted. Okay, and it just sort of falls apart. It's nice and soft. Okay, that's how I like to eat it. I think it's a little bit better. The raw is okay, but you know, we're chefs. We like cooking things. So we're going to take that. We're going to use some of our wild mushrooms here. I've got 3 different kinds. This is called a maitake. Maitake mushrooms are they have a really nice flavor to them. This is called a beach mushroom. Okay, it doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it looks really cool. And this is called a king trumpet mushroom. It has a lot of flavor and has a very cool texture. You can actually roast these and slice them up like meat. Okay, First thing we're going to do though is add a little bit of garlic. Okay. Shallots. Okay. We're going to slice up some of our mushrooms in no particular order. Okay. You don't need a whole lot. So let's cook. We've got our hot pan. We're going to add just a little bit of butter to it. I'm using clarified butter for this stage. You don't have to use butter, you could use olive oil. You can use anything you want actually, but since it's crepes, let's go with butter. Okay, nice French ingredient. We're going to add our garlic and our shallots first. Okay, and so garlic and shallots are what's known as an aromatic. That's a big chunk right there. So usually the aromatics are added first to anything you're doing, and they're called aromatics because, go figure, they smell really nice, okay? Once they are starting to brown and turn a little bit translucent, we're gonna add our mushrooms, okay? Now we've got our trumpets in there, our maitakes in here. Let's do some of the beech, okay? Those going, maybe a little bit more beech. The beech are kind of cool. It's funny because you see the beech mushrooms like this, and then you see a white variety of beech mushroom. It's exactly the same thing. What you do with the white variety is you don't allow it any sunlight, and if you want the brown one, you allow it a little bit of sunlight. Okay. Let's give it a little bit more butter so we don't brown it. One of the things about mushrooms is they are like little sponges. They will absorb all kinds of cool stuff. And we don't want to burn. So we're going to control our heat. Once we get a nice little sear on them, you can see they're starting to wilt just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of white wine. And let that simmer for just a little while. Maybe a little more. This is actually a really nice white wine to go with it. This is Anjou Blanc. This is a type of Chenin Blanc, which is a French wine usually from the Loire region of France. It's really nice. It smells ever so slightly of apples, which I always really like. Okay. Now, let's take some of our roasted sunchokes. And since they've already been roasted, they're actually quite soft. And by the way, don't worry about peeling your sunchokes. I kind of like them this way. It adds a little texture. Plus, they're kind of a pain to peel. So I like to tell people, you know, the skins are where all the flavor is. But really, I just don't want to peel them. Okay. All right, let's get those guys in there. And then we're going to kind of mash them around because we want that center part to sort of mix into a sauce for us. Okay. A little more heat. All right, now we're cooking. We're gonna add a little bit of parsley. This is parsley from our garden. This is the first week of November, but some parts of our garden are still thriving. The tomatoes have passed on, but the parsley, the sage, the rosemary, and the thyme are all still good. And no, I'm not making that up. Also the oregano, but that's not part of the song. Okay, so a little parsley, a little thyme. Okay, and as you start to see, what the mushrooms are doing, they've got the nice wine, but they're also starting to release some of their own little juices here. Okay, so a little bit of salt. Okay, and There, we're good. Now to finish, we're actually going to finish with a little bit of whole butter. Whole butter is actually better for making sauces. The melted butter you can use anywhere, but if you want to finish a sauce, whole butter is good. Preferably it's kind of cold like this. Not this cold. It's colder than I thought out here. Okay. And as you can see, what we kind of got here is a nice little sauce going. We're going to give just a spoonful of sour cream to that. Call it 2 spoonfuls. Okay. Now we're cooking with wild mushrooms. All right. We have our Gruyere crepes. We have our wild mushroom mixtures. And we have lunch. Thank you very much. This will be on the menu soon. I hope you like it.